Say you're eating a crispy cone of ice cream, and I ask you what flavor it is. What would you say? Well, probably strawberry or vanilla or chocolate. But what if I ask you what the flavor tastes like? Now that's different. There's nothing I love more than strolling into my kitchen and soaking in that welcoming blend of flavors, and I just can't wait to have my tummy filled. Imagine for a second how one extra ingredient added to a meal can magically transform the overall taste. Can we really tell what a thing tastes like? Or there's more than meets the tongue. In this video, we will be exploring how world-class chefs use the 5 taste elements to create their 5-star recipes that will always leave you drooling for more, and how you too can try them out. So stick till the end to catch all the magic. Ready? Let's cook! Flavors are the building blocks of every tasty meal, and balancing all 5 flavors can be tricky sometimes. If the flavor strikes the wrong taste bud, then the returning meal would be a nightmare for you. As humans, we always tend to explore and try out new things and new combinations for a desired outcome. It's the same trick with cooking dishes as well. For a dish to stand out, the chef must have a professional understanding of the different flavor elements and how to combine them. But first, you might ask, what are these elements? I'm glad you asked. They are sweet, sour, salt, bitter, and umami. These 5 taste profiles are like your recipe superpowers, and when used in the right proportion, they can take your dish from meh to magnificent. But we'll be churning them out one at a time for easy understanding. So let's start with sweet. I know you might be tempted to think of your favorite candy or chocolate, but not so fast. Do you know that there's a lot more chemistry to sugar than how it tastes? As humans, we have a wide range of sweet receptors in our taste buds, which allow us to detect the presence of sugar and other sweet compounds in a dish. Naturally, we have a preference for sweets, which is likely rooted in evolutionary biology. As a result, people may have different levels of sensitivity to sweet flavors due to their individual physiology and psychological makeup. Generally, the higher the sugar content of a food, the sweeter the taste. Sweetness helps to counterbalance other flavors, particularly bitterness. A teeny tiny bit of sweetness can even boost the savory taste in most dishes. Picture yourself eating your favorite fruit salad. That moment when each scoop feels like you're swimming among clouds, together with the birds in the air. Aha! The sweetness of the fruit complements and balances the sourness of citrus fruits, and boom! You have a delicious and mouth-watering fruit salad. Chefs understand this secret, and they know how best to feature it in a recipe in the right proportion, till you're spending the last penny in your wallet just to have more chocolate chip cookies. Next, a taste that most people don't like: sour taste. While this isn't as bad as it sounds, think of the citrus family: oranges, limes, tangerines, and so on. They all fall under this category. This flavor is responsible for picking out the acidic taste in a food. It gives you that tangy and refreshing flavor that can help cut through fatty foods as well. Unlike the sweet taste receptors, it helps us to detect the acids in our food brought on by hydrogen ions. Chefs would usually reach out for these ingredients in preparing a recipe: cultured dairy milk, vinegar, citrus juice, tomatoes, fresh or dried fruit, and so on. But most chefs are aware that simply making food taste sour is not the end game for acidic flavors. What more do we need to know about sour and acidic tastes? The presence of bacteria or microbes called spoilage lets you know when your food has gone too sour to eat and can make your stomach go bad. Naturally, sour flavors depend largely on acidity to give them that distinct mouth-puckering taste. So a little addition of a sour ingredient can brighten up a dish. Next is the salty taste. This is probably the ingredient mostly used in your kitchen: salt. This one ingredient is excellent in preserving your fresh foods from rotting. Just a background study, there are a variety of salts, and each salt has a unique taste and reaction to your food. We have kosher salt, which is best used for seasoning meats, poultry, and salad because of its large grains. So it's used basically for everything besides baking. We have table salt, probably the most common type of salt. However, table salt is of a less natural variety because it has been processed and loses its minerals. It also contains iodine and anti-caking agents. Flour of the sea salt. one of the most precious ingredients in the world because it's made by hand and harvested from the top of the salt ponds. Other types of salt include brining salt, black salt, pink salt, flake salt, Celtic sea salt, and so on. Although they have distinct effects, they are all made up of the same compound, sodium chloride. The taste bud receptors of salty taste are found majorly at the front sides of the tongue. Salt flavor in meat is used through brining, a process where you submerge a chunk of meat into a solution of salt and water. It can draw moisture into the food item, making it more tender. This adds flavor and seasoning from the inside out, changing the meat's physical nature. Applying this one ingredient to your dish gives a major impact to the texture of your food. Now, the bitter taste. Do you hate vegetables, especially the Brussels sprouts and the broccoli from the cabbage family? Then you might have really sensitive bitter taste buds. Well, the truth is, the bitter flavor doesn't have as much fan base as the other flavors, but it does have its unique health benefits. When we eat bitter flavors, our mouth increases the production of saliva, which helps improve mouth hydration and stimulates the movement of the digestive system in a process known as peristalsis. I know your head's going crazy already. I'll spare that for another video. Now, here's a truth unknown to most chefs, something I like to call a wonder. A jalapeno or spicy flavor is not a flavor at all. People often categorize this as a bitter flavor, but it isn't. It's just a pain receptor that tells our brain that we've tasted something weird, spicy, and possibly dangerous. How does this apply in preparing a recipe? When the ingredients of the same profile are too much in a dish, it can be balanced by adding something bitter like apple cider vinegar, kale, arugula, or artichokes to soften the intense flavor, depending on the meal you're preparing. So, bitter flavor isn't that much of an enemy after all. Last on the list is umami. It's basically the taste of deliciousness. This taste is triggered by a particular acid in your food known as glutamate. Foods with high umami flavor include mushrooms, peas, fresh corn, nuts, sea vegetables, soy sauce, and tamari. The more the glutamate, the more the umami. And the more the umami, the more the deliciousness. The more the deliciousness, the more rounds you order. And the more bucks that fly from your wallet. Okay, just kidding. However, while this is technically true, the presence of umami alone doesn't automatically imply that your dish will be delicious. And that brings us to the next phase of this video. How do you balance all the flavors in your dish to give you that extraordinary experience that will leave you melting in ecstasy? There's no doubt that if you get this correctly, you're on your way to preparing something magical. It will take a lot more practice to know how to bring out the best of each flavor. There are a variety of methods you can use to balance the flavors in your recipe, but for the sake of this video, we will just use one, which is the flavor adjustment method. This is kinda technical, but you will learn how to use each flavor to your advantage. First, if your dish gets too bitter, add the salty flavor. Marrying bitter flavor and salt flavor together makes for a perfect happy couple. If you add too many bitter ingredients like bitter vegetables or alcohol-based seasoning into your dish, then sprinkle some more salt into it. It'll neutralize the bitter flavor, and voila! Your dish has been restored. However, you should be careful not to sprinkle more salt than is needed. Secondly, you can adjust overly sweet dishes with a bitter or sour ingredient. You might need just a small splash of lemon or vinegar or green vegetables in your dish if you end up with a high profile of sweet flavors. After all, who enjoys an overly sweet meal? For me, I'll be this close to throwing up. Third, sometimes making a dressing or tomato sauce can make my mouth pucker a little bit more than I intended. You know that stinging sensation that feels like 1,000 bees in your mouth and you feel like throwing up? Well, the best way to sort this out is to churn it down with sweet flavor. Sweetness balances out sour flavors and makes your dish taste better. Lastly, if you can taste the salt in your dish, you've probably added more than needed. But here's a simple trick to balance the flavor. Adding a quantity of water to the dishes will harness the saltiness. Also, you can add some sweet flavor if you don't mind. A sweet ingredient like honey should balance out the saltiness. Understanding these basics, together with consistent practice, will set you up as a master chef sooner than you expect. These are simply the building blocks you have to understand before going into preparing your recipe. And there you have it, my food lovers. Chefs truly have magic fingers when it comes to creating masterpieces. It doesn't come as easy as it looks, but an understanding of these 5 flavors will set you up for an adventure. So the next time you're tasting a dish bursting with irresistible flavors, take a moment to appreciate the artist and the artistry. But hey, you too can become one, and as well, a master of your own recipe. If you followed this video till now, it means you found it interesting. Then you don't want to miss out on our next video. I have loads of juicy content to share with you, so I won't mind you smashing that subscribe button for me. Also, turn on the notification bell so you won't miss out. For now, bon appetit!